Hi guys, life should be on your terms. Whatever it means to you, that's the most important thing to us. Your life on your terms. And in this little session, I want to go through buying a new car or not. That could be a big ass wake up call. So what I've done is I've been looking at a few different alternatives and situations, and I'm going to go through what kind of implication it might actually have if you tend to buy new cars. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the end, it's all about a priority. And obviously about money in general. Anyway, so I want to tell you a little bit sort of a story. Two twins. One, Joe the Joyer. He just want to have fun. He's super chill, relaxed, whatever. And he doesn't think about money. He doesn't care. It's not really important. That's how he says he feels. But on the inside, he's stressed like crazy. Frederic, the financially free. Always in control, always have money, can do what he wants because he's in full control, taking care of his money and finances. So, these two brothers, they're looking at buying a new car. So, what do they do? First thing is, of course, that they're looking at buying it cash. And in the US, the average car is about $36,000. And since the US is a little bit cheaper than Europe, I'm rounding it to 40K. So, want to buy a new car? Approximately 40K. The only thing I'll be discussing here and looking at is actually the cost of buying and financing the new car. I'm not taking anything else into account in terms of insurance, petrol, service and maintenance, whatever. No. Only purchasing a new car and the total cost of actually doing that depending on how you do it and how you finance it. So, we have Frederic, the free, and we have Joe, the joyer. First situation is they go into the car dealer, pretty nice guy, talk with him, and he says, I have this super nice car, it's 40K cash. Obviously, Joe really wants to buy the car because he's dating this new girl and would always be good if he had a new fancy car. Problem is, he has no cash. So a cash purchase for Joe, no way, he can't do it. But Frederic, on the other hand, he's been saving for 5 years, has the money in his account, 40K, not a problem because he knew he was buying a car. But he wants to think about it because putting out the 40K, now that he has the 40K, yes, more, but still, he likes seeing his money growing. Knowing he can buy cash, he still says, I'm going to think about it, let me get back to you. But the cash alternative, only available to Frederic. They go back home, have a think about it, and then they say, there must be another way. What about a car financing deal? So you basically say you take a car loan. So they go back, talk to the seller, and they say, yeah, we can have you can get a car loan. So Frederic is obviously okay with the situation. He looks at the numbers and he knows he can borrow 36,000. He needs 10% cash, no problem whatsoever. Interest rate, basically the amount of money you pay to borrow the money is 5%. Currently, borrowing money to purchasing stuff in the Western world has become very, very cheap in terms of the interest in general, but he still eats a lot of money. So 5%, but Frederic is thinking, but if I do that, because my money is currently invested, and I've been invested for decades, and the average return I've been managing to get on my money and my investments has been similar to the stock market, which is around 10%. So he's looking backwards saying, if I can repeat history of around 10% per year, and I can borrow money from this guy at 5%, it's better to borrow from him than if Frederic expects to generate the same returns in the future and is happy to take the risk because he can keep his money then invested, generating 10% every year, borrowing the money, paying 5%. So he'll still have 5% more money every year. Yeah. That is the alternative for Frederic the free. So he has the money, he has the upfront payment of 4,000. Joe the joyer is just super happy because actually he's seeing an opportunity saying he can buy the 40K car that he can't really afford, but he can borrow 36. He needs to come up with 10%. Unfortunately, he doesn't even have the 10%, which is the 4,000. But he's pretty clever because he really wants the cool car because he knows if he gets the car, he gets the girl. That's what he thinks at least. As if it's normally about the car. So he comes up with the smart solution. He basically sends in application for new credit cards. He already has 8 of them. He managed to get a 9th. gets the 4K and is like super happy, like a child. He's going to buy the car. So buys the car, puts in the 4,000 on his credit card, borrowed 36 from the dealer. Over a period of 10 years, I'm assuming, which is a long period for Joe, the Joyer, to keep the car over 10 years. The car, only the purchasing and the financing is costing him in total 53,000. Though he will have a car maybe worth 10,000, but he still has credit card debt 4,000. He hasn't managed to pay that one off, and obviously the monthly installments of $700 for the car per month. He hasn't really figured that one out. But anyway, in total, the car over a decade, car purchase only, is going to cost him around 47,000. The third alternative, again, is only available to Frederic the Free, because that is increasing the mortgage on his home. And Joe the Joyer, he is renting, he doesn't have a mortgage, so obviously he can't increase his mortgage because he doesn't have one, because he doesn't own his home. But Frederic the Free, he has his house, he has a small mortgage because he's been paying it off. He calls his private banker and asks him, so I want to maybe increase my mortgage slightly with like 40K. And the banker says, not a problem, your finances are in brilliant shape, no problem at all. And the interest rate is 2.5%. Frederic goes, 2.5%, that's half compared to what the dealer was offering me is 5%. And I don't have to do any amortization either. I don't have to pay off the loan because I have so little mortgage. Cool. Okay. 2.5%. And if I can then, Frederic then, can maintain his investments, generating the 10% going forward over the next decade, he sits down by his computer, does his numbers, and realizes if he keeps his 40K and just let him grow at 7.5%, he will have approximately 80,000 in 10 years time, which means buy the car taking a mortgage, invest the money or keep it invested, and if he managed to get the same annual return of 10% as he has historically, he knows there are lots of risks, no guarantees, but he still makes those assumptions. 10 years later, if that's true, he has $80,000. He cashes out 40, pays off his loan for the car, so he still has 40K. He has owned the new car whilst it was being financed by the bank. So he obviously thinks that, that sounds like a much more appealing alternative than paying cash, because if I pay cash now, keep the car for 10 years, I have a car that is worth maybe 10,000 as we said, but I don't have anything else. Compared to the last example, increasing the mortgage, having 80,000, paying off 40,000 in the pocket, and still the car is worth 10, so 50K. And Joe obviously wish he could do something similar, but unfortunately he's stuck with only one alternative, and that is the financing alternative. But Fredric's not really content with the alternatives, because he's thinking, isn't there a better way? So he does his research, he loves to learn new things, and he knows earners are learners, and the ones who pays the most are the ones who knows the least. So he goes home, checks out online, starts reading up on cars. He's not particularly interested in cars anyway, but then he finds a lot of articles about the biggest cost of cars happens during the first 3 years. If you buy a new car. You buy a new car, drive it out from the dealer, boom, the value drops significantly. Rule of thumb, between 30 and 50% of the value drops, or the depreciation occurs within the first 3 years. Between 10 and 20, maybe 30% just because you drive out from the dealer. So Frederic started thinking, why do I need a new car? Or do I really need a new car? We need a new car, but I don't really need a brand new. And when I'm looking out at cars, since Frederic doesn't know a lot about cars, nor does his friends, but he's thinking about, if I see 10 cars, 20 cars, I don't even know how old they are. So what if I can find a second-hand car instead? A second-hand car, to most people, if it's like between 5 and 10 years, they will have absolutely no clue. So if I want to keep up with the Joneses for whatever reason, why don't I buy a car that's like 5 years old, which is going to not cost me 40K, probably closer to 10,000, which means I have another 30,000 in my pocket. The more he thinks about it, the more appealing the idea. Obviously for Joe the Joyer, no. He needs the new car, he wants the new girl, so fuck that. Take out the loan, buy the car. That's his way. Freddy thinks about it, again, sits down, he does his numbers. And realizes like, if he buys a second-hand car, he has the 30,000 now, and he needs only to pay 10 for the car. So the 30,000 can still be invested. And if he only leaves that 30,000 invested and manage to get the same kind of return over a very long period of time, because, well, he has the money now, he doesn't need the money, and if he leaves it in, he will have closer to $500,000. So his choice of not buying one car means him having a retirement with $500,000, given that he is able to generate the same kind of returns as he did before. One car. Imagine what would happen if he did that every 5 years or every 10 years. Because obviously what he does is he's been saving over the last 5 years $400 a month to have 30,000 saved so he can actually buy the car, because he already had 10k since before available. And it's like, so actually I'll buy a second-hand car, good quality, low insurance, low service cost, low mileage, so nice piece of car on the cheap but second-hand, and keep the 30k invested. On top of that, the $410 that he's been saving every month for the last 5 years is like, yeah, I don't even notice anymore, Frederic says, because it's been happening automatically, I'm not even thinking about it. So obviously those $400 a month he will continue to save as well, which means in the next, say, 5 or 10 years when he needs to buy a new car, 1, he has the money, 2, he doesn't have to think about it most likely ever again, because if you want to buy another car for 10 or 20k, do you think that will even be a little dent on his assets if he's generating hundreds of thousands because of the way he's living and behaving and the structure that he's created? Most likely so. So let me just write them down very quickly. First alternative, cash. If you have the money, too much money, and you never have to worry about money, or if you're very, very financially secure and comfortable, then maybe you want to buy cash. But you should always be aware there's always an alternative in every situation. The other one would be the car loan at 5%. And again, this one rather appealing, and obviously that was the only alternative for Joe. Then we had the mortgage. Again, this one was only available to Frederic. Second hand, 10k. So the difference between Joe, who over this period ended up paying $47,000, this is only for the car. No maintenance, no service, no fuel, no tires, no nothing, right? And then we have Frederic. We say that he bought his car for 10. And just say that he gets nothing for it when it's time to sell or replace it. On the other hand, Frederic kept his money in the account and let them grow. So the difference between the two is that Frederic has 80,000 in his account. Joe is minus 47,000. Frederic spent 10, he already had them. He now has another 80,000. Joe spent 47 he didn't have, so he is in debt for life. The difference is actually $127,000. That's on one car. Do you think Joe, the Joyer, is very joyful when he's riding in his car. He's now single again, didn't work on the girl. The financial stress that he has because of the way he's been behaving around money and the money mindset that he has. Every time he hears the word money now, he's panicking, he's freezing. He might even be thrown out on the street because he's not keeping up with his payments to his landlord. Frederic, super happy. He feels like, hey, I almost have a brand new car. No one can tell the difference. I have loads of money in my pocket, and he's comfortable that if you leave them there, he's looking at 500,000 or closer to that at retirement when he's turning 65. If he ever wants to retire, he loves learning and he'll continue to learn for the rest of his life, but money will never be a problem. So the point with this little session was really to think about, do I need to buy a new car? Is it more important to me keeping up with the Joneses or being financially free? Never having to stress about money because I have the money and I'm using money the way I want to, prioritizing the stuff that I want. Because he can't really do anything. Whilst Freddie can say, actually, we want to go to Miami, Florida, Europe, Asia, wherever. He can take a pretty decent vacation together with his family, still knowing he has money, never a problem. Whilst Joe, he's having constant headaches. So before you buy a brand new car, just think about the alternatives. Maybe you want to buy a new car, maybe you have the cash, maybe you don't. One, I would say, always pay it cash. I don't use debt unless you really have to, but at least then understand the consequences between buying a new car and a second-hand car. And if you only do it to impress on your neighbors or whatever, then I really suggest you think again, because I'm pretty sure you would feel even better if you knew you actually had the money and that you always have money. Because a lot of people, again in the States, financial stress is one of their biggest concerns and biggest worries, and the same thing goes for a lot of other locations as well. So no financial stress, still driving the car, and of course if you're in the States, the average home has 2 cars. Maybe you do with 1 car, and again you could save the difference between the 2 of them, and 1 car is probably around $500 a month, even if it's a second-hand car, in terms of depreciation and the running costs and so forth. So if you can do with 1 car and put aside $500, again, if the markets behave the same and you manage to do what Frederic did, you put aside the $500, over a decade you will have closer to $100,000 invested money, your money. And I guess that would be a big difference. The question is, do you need 2 cars or can you do with 1? And then, do you need to buy brand new or can you buy second hand? Just think about it, and if you have any questions, of course I made a lot of assumptions, but most of the assumptions should be very realistic. The numbers in terms of the levels, in terms of cost of borrowing money, they are in line with the current levels, so obviously they will change over time as well. But there's always an alternative to everything, and again, the ones who knows the least pays the most. Joe, any kind of service he does, as he has no clue and he doesn't check, he's gonna pay the big bucks because he doesn't know, he doesn't care, so he just pays. Frederic, every time he needs to do something with his car, he will always check with 2 or 3 car dealers or maintenance shops or and so forth, because he wants to make sure that he gets a good price and good quality. The different alternatives. Spend some time before buying a car. It's a big purchase. If you don't like numbers, or maybe even hate numbers, which I really hope you don't, but if you don't like numbers or money, please do talk to someone who do, and someone who has money. Not someone who has a lot of opinions, but very limited knowledge and doesn't act the way they talk. So, before buying something big like this, ask someone who knows about it that can help you make a wise decision so you understand the different alternatives and the potential implications over time. Because I do hope you'll become as old as I will, sort of 120 or thereabouts, which means you probably want to have some money in your pocket as you get a little bit older as well. Car purchasing, big expenditure, big cost for most families. That's it for today. Have a good day.